My wife, Carla, snagged a new gig about 4.5 months back, and along with it came a crew of new pals. Now I'm a 36-year-old guy who doesn't fuss much, but her friends? They were a bunch of hardcore feminists. The type who'd lecture you for holding a door open or for not. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. At first, I shrugged it off, but the past couple months, things with Carla took a nosedive. We've been hitched for 11 years and got 2 kids, Lila, 10, and Max, 8. But lately, every little thing became a battleground. Carla started spewing all sorts of wild accusations, claiming I was part of the problem because men have historically oppressed women. Can you believe that? Anything I did, stuff she used to love, suddenly turned into ammo for her to start a fight. I kept my cool, usually ending arguments by reminding her I hadn't wronged her, that all I did was love her. This would usually leave her muttering and plotting her next move. Then, about 5 weeks ago, I got that sinking feeling in my gut that something was way off. Carla started coming home late, smashed and aloof, without a heads up. When I'd call, her phone went unanswered. The next day, she'd brush off my worries, accusing me of being overbearing. This became a pattern. I tried checking her phone once, found nothing solid, but noticed she'd likely wiped her messages clean. What I did find was a convo with one of her pals about how she was going to broach the subject of an open relationship with me. That confirmed my suspicions. She was having an affair. The D-Day for this dreadful discussion was set for the second Monday of December, while our kids were with my folks for Christmas. Carla thought she'd casually bring up the idea of an open relationship over breakfast, but I was ready, had my recorder on and everything. I've read enough stories to know there's no fixing this. It was all about safeguarding my dignity and looking out for Lila and Max now. I didn't raise my voice. I just switched into a stern, no-nonsense mode. She had that smug look till she saw my expression change, then her confidence vanished. "Who is he?" I demanded, keeping my voice steady, watching her facade crumble as she fumbled for words, pretending to be clueless. She didn't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation. "If you're gonna have this talk with me, don't play me for a fool. Be honest for once. If you can't do that, what's even the point?" I pressed her, my patience thinning. "If you lie to me now, we can't even begin to discuss what you want to about our relationship. It's clear you're hiding something. So, who's the guy? Or guys? I'm not— Oh my God, it's more than one, isn't it? Just don't lie to me. You've completely shattered my trust," I cut her off. "Be straight with me or I'm walking. We end this marriage here and now. No debates, no delays, just a divorce. Understand? But, say it. Do you get that if you lie, I will end this? I already know plenty. I can read you like an open book. One lie and we're done. Tell me you understand." I understand," she stuttered, finally breaking down to confess about 2 one-night stands she had while out with her so-called friends. I grilled her about the details, who they were, if they were married, whether she was safe. "Both married, both with kids," she admitted, and then dropped another bombshell. She was planning to sleep with a colleague and argued it was justified since he was in an open relationship, and it would be good for her career. "You can't control me," she declared, as if that excused everything. "And apparently you've lined up some of your friends for me. Think I'd be interested? Never gonna happen," I said, rejecting her absurd suggestion outright. I demanded her phone, and she handed it over, slipping into the bathroom. I locked myself in my office, and while she pounded on the door, I ran recovery software to retrieve deleted messages and installed a spy app to keep tabs. The evidence I gathered was damning. After handing back her phone, I told her plainly to leave. She yelled, accused me of being controlling, claimed I never loved her, and insisted I accept her actions as no big deal. I hardly said a word, just packed her bags as she ranted. Eventually, I led her to the front door, remaining silent until she exhausted herself. "You're single now. Do what you want. I'm not holding you back anymore," I declared as she hesitated on the stairs. "My lawyer would handle the rest come January." She turned to argue, but I slammed the door shut, locking it behind her. Later, I saw her chatting with her friends online, them praising her strength and entitlement, assuring her I was all talk. They really believed I wouldn't go through with it. They were in for a surprise. What bothered me most was how they egged her on, telling her she deserved better, that she was right to demand what she deserved. They had no idea the storm that was coming their way. After overhearing her friend casually suggest she could accuse me of domestic abuse as a manipulative tactic, a method her friend had successfully employed to take everything from her ex. I realized the depth of the betrayal and the potential danger I was in. I had to take immediate action to protect myself. I ordered cameras to install throughout our house, ensuring that every interaction would be recorded. The idea that I had to take such measures was disheartening. I had never threatened her in any way. The situation escalated when I discovered she was messaging her affair partner, arranging to meet at a hotel. Stunned and shaken, I took to the internet to track down his wife. It didn't take long before I found her on Facebook, and after explaining the situation, she was understandably shocked but thankful for the information. She wasted no time and confronted them at the hotel later that day. The confrontation was explosive. From the video she sent me, it was clear this wasn't the first time her husband had cheated. The pain and anger were palpable as she stormed into the room, capturing my wife hastily getting dressed. The wife's anger erupted into a physical altercation, and harsh words were exchanged. Witnessing this through the video, I felt a mix of nausea and disbelief. Confronted with the undeniable evidence, I sent a final message to my wife. I told her I had seen everything and that I could no longer be near her. Her actions had turned our interactions into a twisted game. She thought she could win, her grip on reality seemingly slipping further away with each passing moment. She appeared completely delusional about the gravity of our situation, not fully comprehending that our divorce was inevitable. Feeling a duty to inform both families and close friends, I logged into my wife's family WhatsApp group to announce our divorce due to her infidelity. I expressed my gratitude for their past kindness and disconnected, unable to face the barrage of inquiries and comments that followed. I was emotionally spent, unable to muster the energy to engage further. I shared the entire heartbreaking saga with my parents, who were supportive but firm in their stance that she was not welcome to join our family Christmas. This time off work has been crucial for me. It has allowed me to reflect on the tumultuous downfall of our marriage and plan for the next steps in a life that has been irrevocably altered. On Christmas, she attempted to force her way back into a semblance of family normalcy by showing up uninvited at my parents' home. My father's threat to call the police if she did not leave underscored the finality of our separation. Now, in the throes of searching for a competent divorce lawyer, I find myself overwhelmed by grief and disbelief, my emotions a raw, open wound. My replies to her persistent messages were clear and final. I told her that she was no longer the woman I married. The loving, considerate partner and friend had been replaced by a stranger, a person absorbed by selfish desires at the expense of our family's happiness. Our children, too, have been thrust into this turmoil. And while I regret the timing of our discussions about the divorce, their well-being remains my top priority. With the support of my parents, I am focusing on healing and providing a stable environment for them, even as I grapple with my own profound sadness and betrayal. This ordeal has shattered our lives, but I am committed to rebuilding, ensuring a better future for my children and myself. As I faced my children's questions about when their mother was coming home, I realized the depth of the betrayal. I could never reconcile with her, not after the disrespect and callousness she'd shown. It's unfathomable to me how she could still think she had any right to demand anything from me. Her expectations seemed so delusional. It made me wonder about her mental state. I just needed to vent about all this, so here it goes. I discussed the situation with a lawyer a friend recommended. Thankfully, I found out I'm legally in the clear regarding the monitoring of the phone. Since the subscription and the device are in my name, it's not illegal for me to monitor my own equipment. That brought me some peace of mind. Reflecting on everything, it feels like my wife is going through an identity crisis. She's being influenced by her new friends, who seem to be exploiting her vulnerability. Still, that's no excuse for her to betray our family. If she had issues with our relationship, she should have communicated that directly with me. I believe in being transparent with our kids to a degree. I don't think I've told them anything inappropriate. It's important they understand the difference between right and wrong through what's happening. I've been a wreck, obsessing over the painful revelations from my wife's chats with her friends. The worst hit came when she cruelly stated that her marriage and especially our children were burdens, hindering her from achieving success and living a fulfilling life. She went as far as to describe me as an oppressive hindrance. I spent hours poring over her messages, which were filled with harsh, unfounded accusations. She didn't provide any concrete examples of how we were supposedly oppressing her. It was all sweeping statements. I've always supported her, financially and emotionally, even encouraging her through numerous hobbies and classes, which she never stuck with. I've tried to be a loving, supportive partner, always showing appreciation for what she contributed to our family. At some point, after exhausting myself with rereading her hurtful words, I passed out from the emotional toll. When I woke, I found my 3 best friends and my dad in the kitchen cooking dinner. They'd come over to support me through this ordeal, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this struggle. Their presence was a small comfort amid the storm, and as I try to pick up the pieces of my shattered life, their support has been invaluable. I'm focusing on healing and moving forward, not just for myself, but for my kids, who deserve a stable and loving environment after everything they've been through. Growing up, I was lucky enough to have friends like Mike, Bob, and Frank, who've been with me since childhood. My dad, recognizing the emotional turmoil I was in, had invited them over and briefed them on the situation. When they arrived, I soon found myself breaking down again, overwhelmed by everything. Mike, who's ex-military and lost his left arm below the elbow, has always been a resilient spirit. I remember how we supported him through his recovery after his wife left him during that tough time. He's since adopted 2 kids and found happiness with a wonderful girlfriend. Mike set up a Zoom call with his counselor, who had helped him deal with his amputation. The counselor didn't specialize in divorce but offered incredible insight into dealing with profound personal loss. He likened my emotional pain to phantom limb pain experienced by amputees, suggesting that part of my identity tied to my marriage and role as a husband was now amputated or dead. That conversation was a turning point for me, helping me start to come to terms with my loss. Bob, who works as an executive at an IT security company, keeps details of his job pretty close to the vest, but he's done well for himself. Understanding the legal battles ahead, he generously contacted a top-tier law firm on retainer with his company and arranged for me to speak with a lawyer I could never afford on my own. Bob has always been grateful for how I stood up for him against bullies back in school, and now he was returning the favor in a big way. Frank, a teacher at a private school and father of 7, has always been the nurturing type. His family is incredibly close to mine, and he's been instrumental in ensuring my kids are well cared for during this tumultuous time. He's been a rock for them, keeping their spirits up while I sort everything out. Amidst this support, another blow came. An STD screening revealed I had contracted chlamydia. The news shifted my grief to anger. Determined to fight for full custody and protect myself legally, I realized I had to take a more aggressive stance. The lawyer managed to track down the ex-husband of one of my wife's friends, the one who had bragged about manipulating the legal system against her husband. The court documents were surprisingly easy to access, and our conversation was enlightening but disheartening. He shared the harrowing details of how his life was upended by lies, leading to homelessness and scarce contact with his children. His story was a grim warning of what could lie ahead for me. Fueled by these revelations, I accepted the harsh reality of my disadvantage in the court system as a man. My lawyer advised a preemptive legal strike, starting with a restraining order, particularly because of the potential harm to our son from being raised in a household with an openly anti-male figure. This preparation for what I've termed war isn't just about legal victories. It's about safeguarding my children's future and reclaiming my life from the wreckage. It's going to be a tough battle, but with my friends and legal team by my side, I'm ready to face whatever comes. As the legal battle intensified, I instructed my lawyer to proceed with filing for full custody. We expected my soon-to-be ex-wife to be served with the restraining order that day. Despite the escalating tensions, I had to engage in a call with her on Zoom, a conversation that unfolded in a surreal manner. She appeared on the call excessively dressed up, a stark contrast to how she'd presented herself in recent years. It was clear she was attempting to provoke a reaction from me. Perhaps she thought appearing attractive would unsettle me. Throughout the call, she tried to bait me into an argument, aiming to elicit anger or any emotional response that could be used against me. Fortunately, I remained composed, following my lawyer's advice to aim for an amicable divorce discussion before proceeding to contest it. I informed her that the call was being recorded. Her opening remarks were bizarre, discussing different types of penises an inappropriate and strange topic to bring up. She hinted at exploring this topic further once social restrictions were lifted, to which I calmly stated that I was only interested in discussing our divorce. Her attempts to provoke me escalated, and she even paused to confer with her friends during the call, returning to hurl gender-based insults at me. Her behavior reinforced my belief that she viewed this ordeal as a game, where she assumed she could manipulate the outcome to her favor. Despite her provocations, we made no progress on the divorce terms. Resigned to the inevitability of a contested divorce, I ended the call after informing her that she had given me chlamydia, emphasizing that I had been faithful, unlike her. Her response was dismissive, a frown and a denial that seemed to question my honesty. I forwarded the recording of our call to my lawyer, who was shocked by her conduct. The consensus among everyone familiar with the situation was that her actions were irrational, possibly indicative of deeper issues. Since the phone and its subscription were in my name, I was within my legal rights to use the chat logs in court, which could provide further evidence of her misconduct. After the call, her panicked discussions with her friends continued, but I chose to detach myself from that negativity. My lawyer was confident in our case, assuming there were no undisclosed complications on my side. Emotionally, I've moved beyond self-pity and am fully focused on defending my rights and protecting my children. I'm determined to ensure they receive all the support and therapy they need during this tumultuous time. While the emotional scars resemble phantom pain, I am resolute in my decision to cut ties and move forward. The goal now is to rebuild a better, healthier life for myself and my children, leaving the chaos and pain of this marriage behind as nothing more than a distant memory. I discovered today that she was aware she had chlamydia and had even received treatment, but she chose not to inform me. Worse still, she seemed to treat the situation as a joke, laughing about it with her friends. It's disturbing how easily one can become obsessed with monitoring their spouse's actions and communications when gathering evidence of infidelity. It feels like a desperate attempt to make sense of why the betrayal happened and to grasp where things went so wrong. The realization that she's discussing these personal matters so callously behind my back is incredibly painful. She's clearly a hurt person herself, but instead of addressing her pain constructively, she's lashing out, intent on hurting those around her. Proper communication about her feelings at the start could have prevented the escalation to this catastrophic point. Despite some seeing me as somehow winning or coming out on top, I want to clarify that there are no winners here. The truth is, I'm not as strong or defiant as I might seem. My anger just seeps through. I never wanted any of this. I wish my family were still whole, envisioning a future together as our kids grew up. My wife has completely derailed, and her refusal to seek medical help for potential mental health issues only exacerbates the situation. Her lack of remorse and insistence on her perspective being reasonable is baffling. She has barely spoken to our children since the day I found out about her infidelity. The decision to divorce and separate our lives wasn't what I wanted, but her actions have left me no choice. The most heart-wrenching part of this ordeal is dealing with the impact on my children. When they ask why their mother doesn't want to see them or if she still loves them, I'm at a loss for words. How do you explain such a complex and painful reality to a child? If anyone has advice on how to handle these questions, I'd greatly appreciate it. Each day is a struggle, feeling like my heart couldn't possibly break any more than it already has, only to find new depths of pain. Unbeknownst to her, I still have access to her communications. She acts with a certainty that I won't leave her, and she continues to speak negatively about me, our marriage, and our children to her friends. I can't fathom why she harbors such intense animosity towards us, especially when the accusations she makes to her friends are baseless. Regarding legal matters, my lawyer secured a temporary restraining order against her. However, at a recent hearing, since there were no new direct threats, the order was not extended. Navigating through this storm of betrayal, pain, and legal complexities is daunting, but I am committed to moving forward for the sake of my children and my own well-being. The journey is far from over, and the road to healing is steep, but I must remain steadfast for those who depend on me. The saga of navigating through my divorce continues to be as confounding and distressing as ever. My lawyer proposed leveraging the fact that my soon-to-be ex-wife knowingly infected me with chlamydia to push for an undisputed divorce. The idea is to use this as leverage to encourage her to settle amicably. While I yearn for a reasonable separation process, I find myself forced into viewing her as the adversary, always bracing for the worst outcomes. If she had simply wanted to leave, I could have accepted that, but her actions seem designed to inflict maximum pain, not just on me, but on everyone who once cared deeply for her. The rationale behind her actions baffles me, and any insights into her behavior would be appreciated. Financially, if the case goes to court, I could end up paying her for the equity in our home, though I'm hopeful that I won't be liable for alimony given her disinterest in maintaining a relationship with our kids. Custody, too, seems a likely win on my part. Nevertheless, my lawyer's strategy is to attempt an amicable settlement first. We have planned a meeting with my estranged wife and her representative, hopefully within the week. The plight of a friend who was grievously misled in his own divorce underscores the biases that can exist in the legal system, particularly against fathers. His ex-wife deceived the court, which accepted her claims without evidence, devastating his life and limiting his access to his children. The injustices he has suffered have brought him to the brink of despair, but the new evidence we've uncovered has given him a glimmer of hope. Our lawyer advised him to hold off on revealing this evidence until the opportune moment, ensuring we don't prematurely show our hand. The strategy now is to secure a divorce as quickly and smoothly as possible. If my wife decides to contest the divorce aggressively, it could drag out the process, something I dread. The stress of this ongoing battle is immense, and I am eager to find resolution and freedom. Update. The meeting that took place with my lawyer and my soon-to-be ex-wife was nothing short of surreal. She arrived half an hour late, without a lawyer, instead accompanied by one of her friends, whom I've had less than pleasant interactions with in the past. My lawyer had given me strict instructions on how to conduct myself: remain calm, respond positively if possible, and remain silent if she signaled by placing her hands flat on the table. Their behavior during the meeting was provocative and unprofessional. They seemed more interested in insulting me and making jokes than engaging in serious discussion about the divorce. It was clear that they were not taking the situation seriously, undermining the gravity of the proceedings. This ongoing chaos is taking a toll, but I am committed to seeing it through for the sake of my future and the well-being of my children. Under the strain of a bizarre and tense negotiation, the divorce proceedings with my soon-to-be ex-wife took a turn that seemed almost theatrical due to its sheer absurdity. Throughout the meeting, she and her friend continuously mocked and insulted me, apparently under the firm belief that I was bluffing about the divorce, that in her worldview, only she could initiate such a process, and if she did, she would emerge victorious, securing everything. My lawyer, adept and strategic, decided it was the right moment to present a proposed settlement. She suggested a significant lump sum of $60,000, covering the equity in the house and other investments, aimed at securing a quick and peaceful resolution. My wife's reaction was immediate and impulsive. Before my lawyer could even fully outline the terms, my wife eagerly interrupted, spurred on by her companion, asking where she could sign, clearly excited by the prospect of the money and seemingly oblivious to the other conditions or the long-term implications of her decision. In the midst of this, a notary was subtly called into the room to authenticate our signatures, ensuring the legal binding of the agreement. My wife, in her rush and excitement, neglected even to take her copy of the agreement with her. She left it behind on the table, more focused on her plans to go to the pub than on the legal document she had just signed. Once they departed, my lawyer confirmed that the session had gone as planned, although she remained cautious. She was well aware that my wife could still obtain legal counsel and potentially contest the agreement. Her next steps involve expediting the process to get in front of a judge, hopefully through a video call, to solidify the divorce terms as soon as possible. In parallel to these negotiations, I had taken the advice of my friend and hired a private investigator. This investigator managed to capture photos of my wife engaging intimately with different men at various bars, and even following one to a hotel. While gathering this evidence was distressing, it provides a crucial safety net should the divorce proceedings escalate. The agreement unexpectedly grants me full custody of our children, requires only a one-time payment, and frees me from any ongoing spousal support. The challenge now is to secure the $60,000 for the lump sum payment. Fortunately, my friend Bob has stepped in, offering to front the entire amount. This sequence of events, although fraught with tension and conflict, opens a pathway to potentially conclude this tumultuous chapter of my life more swiftly than anticipated. It allows me to focus on rebuilding and stabilizing my life for the sake of my children. The path forward is still fraught with potential complications, but this development marks a significant stride towards resolution. Despite having reached what seems to be the final stages of our divorce proceedings, a part of me still can't shake the feeling that this isn't over, that at any moment, my soon-to-be ex-wife could escalate things further by introducing false accusations or involving a more aggressive lawyer. My lawyer's advice was clear: maintain a low profile, continue covering my usual expenses, and avoid any actions or conversations that could be used against me. Essentially, her guidance was to remain passive and silent, waiting for the court hearing without giving my ex-wife any ammunition to use in a potential dispute. Update. Yesterday was the hearing, and it feels surreal to say, but I'm basically divorced. It will take another 4 to 6 months for the paperwork to become official, but at this point, the divorce is all but finalized. Only a mutual agreement to halt the proceedings could change that now. I'm emotionally and physically exhausted. The lack of sleep and the stress of the situation have left me scattered and desperate for some rest. The days leading up to the hearing were chaotic. Last Friday, a group of police officers arrived at my door with a search warrant. I was confused and concerned, especially for my kids, but the officers allowed me to take them outside while they conducted their search. I received a copy of the warrant, though in the moment, I was too shaken to comprehend it fully. It seems my ex-wife's erratic and possibly drug-influenced behavior played a role in this, as hinted at by the police. I've installed cameras throughout my house to safeguard against false accusations, ensuring everything is recorded. Although my lawyer was present and confirmed the validity of the search warrant, there was little we could do at that moment. In hindsight, considering the tumultuous events that followed, I'm thankful for the foresight to have those cameras installed. I later learned that my ex-wife and her friends, one of whom is the notorious Henrietta, who previously bragged about manipulating court outcomes against her own ex, took my car without permission. They were involved in a serious accident after driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, crashing into a house at high speed. All were arrested. One is in critical condition. The gravity of their actions and the consequences they now face are stark and distressing. After the police concluded their search of my house, which thankfully turned up nothing incriminating, I was left to deal with the aftermath. The house was a mess, and the emotional and physical toll of seeing my space violated and upended was overwhelming. It was, in many ways, the breaking point for me. Throughout all of this, I've been in contact with Henrietta's ex-husband, Henry, who has become a good friend. We've shared our mutual struggles and supported each other through our respective ordeals. My focus now is on recovering from this latest upheaval, securing the well-being of my children, and moving forward from a marriage that has been nothing short of a storm of chaos. I hope that sharing my story will provide some therapeutic relief and help me find the peace I need to finally get some rest. The journey has been harrowing, but the end of this chapter in my life is in sight. In the midst of one of the lowest points in my life, after the police had left my home in shambles, I was overcome with despair. Unable to cope, I reached out to my dad, who quickly brought me and the kids to stay with him and my mom. While I was breaking down on the back porch, my dad gathered an incredible group of 26 friends and relatives who rallied to support me. They not only cleaned my entire house, but they repaired and organized everything: washing ceilings, walls, fixing door handles, and more. It was beyond anything I could have hoped for, and their kindness transformed my despair into gratitude. The sense of community and support I felt was overwhelming, and it lifted me from a very dark place. In another turn of events, the situation with Henrietta, one of my ex-wife's friends involved in the crash, worsened. The police found more drugs at her house, and with no responsible adult present, her children were left alone. This led to Child Protective Services taking the children, and Henrietta's ex-husband, was granted temporary emergency custody after presenting the judge with chat logs and evidence of her neglect and drug issues. After years of limited contact due to Henrietta's actions, Henry is now hopeful for a permanent custody arrangement. Despite the potential for Henrietta to face significant legal consequences, Henry is primarily focused on rebuilding his life with his children rather than continuing a prolonged legal battle. Bob, ever the supportive friend, helped Henry secure a rental apartment, highlighting how little I actually knew about Bob's personal and professional life, a realization that made me want to connect more with him. The aftermath of the crash and Henrietta's arrest led to further complications. Since my ex-wife is still registered at my address, my home was included in the search warrant. This incident, coupled with the ongoing drama, solidified my decision to sell the house and move away to avoid any future disruptions. On Sunday, I received a call from my ex-wife's parents, whose house had also been searched. They were disillusioned with their daughter, having learned of her continual deceit and the real circumstances of her nights out, which she had lied about, claiming she was trying to reconcile with me. On Monday, my ex-wife, now in jail, called me to post her $15,000 bail. Her parents had refused, and after discussing with my lawyer, we drafted an agreement that the bail amount would be deducted from the divorce settlement. This agreement also involved her mother as a custodian of the remaining amount, ensuring that the financial arrangements were clear and legally documented. Through all of this turmoil, the support from my family, friends, and legal team has been invaluable. They've provided not just practical help, but emotional support that has helped me navigate through these incredibly challenging times. As I move forward, my focus remains on ensuring stability and happiness for my children and myself, leaving behind the chaos and starting anew. As the legal and emotional turmoil continued to unfold, my lawyer made a strategic decision to ensure that my wife had no legitimate reason to miss the hearing. We facilitated her release on bail with the condition that she would attend, and she reluctantly agreed. However, by Monday afternoon, she was out, and by Tuesday, she had left her parents' home after refusing to comply with their conditions for staying there, conditions aimed at fundamentally changing her destructive lifestyle. She missed the court hearing. I presented all recent events to the judge, including her behavior over the weekend, and won full custody. The judge upheld the settlement agreement we had previously made. The official processing might take a few months, but effectively the divorce and custody arrangement are resolved. There's little that can be done now to alter these outcomes. Yet despite what might appear to outsiders as a victory, it feels anything but. I'm left grappling with a profound sense of loss. She was not only my wife, but my best friend and soulmate, until her downward spiral. The love I still feel for her makes this victory painfully hollow. When people congratulate me, it feels akin to being applauded for a Pyrrhic victory, having saved part of a limb while losing much more. The emotional toll is heavy, and it has invaded my sleep with nightmares. Adding to this complex array of emotions was a call I received today from the hospital informing me that my ex-wife was hospitalized after a severe beating by some of her new friends. They mistakenly believed she had betrayed them by providing incriminating chat logs to Henry. Despite the extensive injuries, which included lost teeth and a broken jaw, she still seemed unaware that I had access to her phone communications. At the hospital, I was there not as her partner, but as a bystander facilitating her parents' involvement. Her life has spiraled out of control, leaving her with nothing. When she asked if she could move back into our home, I had no choice but to refuse. The only path back to her parents' support involves her making genuine efforts to rehabilitate, which she has so far been unwilling to commit to. In that moment at the hospital, she expressed regret, uttering a hollow apology for ruining everything. It's the first sign of any remorse I've seen from her throughout this ordeal. Though it's difficult to gauge its sincerity, it seems more a regret of losing control over her life rather than genuine remorse for the damage caused to our family and her own well-being. As I navigate these final steps of our divorce, I am committed to maintaining the necessary financial responsibilities, like her health insurance and phone, until everything is legally finalized. But my guard remains up, and I will not truly believe it is over until I have the finalized divorce papers in hand. The road ahead is uncertain, and while I hope for her recovery and a better path forward, I must prioritize the well-being and stability of our children and myself. Seeing my ex-wife in the hospital, battered and broken, was a deeply painful sight. Despite my conflicting emotions, I had to maintain a boundary for the safety and well-being of our children. Her behavior had become too unpredictable and dangerous. During my visit, she hardly made eye contact and showed little interest in discussing her own legal and personal situations, or even inquiring about her critically injured friend. It was clear she was absorbed in her own issues, seemingly irritated by the circumstances she had found herself in. Her downfall, driven by fleeting highs and reckless behavior, has resulted in the destruction of our family and caused immense pain to many. I've decided to enforce a complete no-contact rule until she has demonstrated a significant and sustained effort to stay clean. Engaging with her in her current state is too complex and fraught with emotional pain. Update. I've been feeling quite depressed and perpetually tired, plagued by nightmares whenever I manage to sleep. On a brighter note, my kids are adapting and showing signs of improvement, largely thanks to the support of my dad. We spent a weekend skiing at his cabin, which was a much-needed break for me and the kids. I've had virtually no contact with my ex. However, I did end up speaking with one of her friends who was involved in the accident and has been in critical condition. Her condition is dire, and sadly her own family has abandoned her. Concerned for the safety of my children and myself from the people who attacked my ex, I felt compelled to reach out to this friend to gather more information about the events leading up to my ex's downward spiral. The conversation started awkwardly, with her offering sexual favors for money, a stark indication of how far she has fallen. I offered money in exchange for information about the dynamics within their group. It was revealed that Henrietta was the instigator, pulling my ex into their circle despite objections from others, and pushing her into drug use and eventually into prostitution to fund their addictions. This group, under the guise of feminist rhetoric, justified their actions as empowerment, but in reality, it was a cover for their drug-fueled lifestyle. Learning about this was heart-wrenching. It's one thing to know your ex has been led astray, but another to hear how deeply ensnared she became in such a destructive lifestyle. The harpy friend expressed deep regret, almost wishing she hadn't survived the crash, a sentiment that reflects the utter hopelessness she feels. The emotional toll of hearing these truths was immense. I found myself crying, mourning the person my wife used to be before she lost herself to addiction. It's a harsh reminder of the devastating impact drugs can have on individuals and their loved ones. In the midst of all this chaos, I've been informed that Henrietta has been charged with a multitude of serious offenses, including death threats, resisting arrest, drug possession, prostitution, drug trafficking, child abuse, and neglect, DUI, property damage, and auto theft. She has been denied bail due to being a flight risk and is likely to face a significant prison sentence. I'm deeply grateful to those who reached out with advice and shared their experiences dealing with addicts. Your insights proved invaluable, particularly the warnings that my ex might attempt to harm herself as she felt increasingly trapped by her circumstances. Unfortunately, your concerns materialized sooner than I could have anticipated. Over the weekend, while we were at the cabin, I received a distressing message from my ex that read like a suicide note. She confessed to her addiction and prostitution, expressing despair and indicating she was about to take drastic action. Because I still had access to her phone's location through the monitoring service, I immediately contacted her father with her location. He found her unconscious on a park bench, and she was quickly taken to the hospital. The doctors managed to treat her for an overdose and hypothermia, which she also suffered due to the cold. Following this incident, her father took legal steps to become her appointed guardian, which now allows him to make decisions about her treatment. This was not only due to her overdose, but also because she had abandoned her children, which legally demonstrated her inability to make rational decisions. She was forcefully committed to a rehab center for a sedated detox scheduled to start soon. Amidst all this, I've been coordinating with her father to ensure that her treatment is financed without her knowing that I am involved in any financial contributions. This is critical, as maintaining distance is essential for my mental health and to focus on the well-being of our children. The danger is not over, however. The individuals who assaulted my ex-wife might still pose a threat, given their violent response to the chat logs presented in court, which they mistakenly believed my ex had provided. This ongoing threat has left me fearful for the safety of myself and my children. As I navigate these tumultuous times, I remain committed to supporting my ex-wife's recovery indirectly and ensuring our children's safety and stability. The road ahead is fraught with challenges, but I'm resolved to handle them with as much grace and strength as I can muster. Henry, understanding the importance of addressing the issues directly, decided to take matters into his own hands. He is a remarkably large and intimidating figure, someone who grew up on a farm, is used to hard labor, and looks like he could handle himself in any situation. Despite his formidable appearance, Henry is a deeply patient, gentle, and kind person, only resorting to force as a last resort. He confronted the men responsible for assaulting my ex-wife at their home, a place he described disparagingly. Henry made it clear to them that they had two choices: accompany him to the police station and confess everything about the assault, or face the consequences of his anger right then and there. He half hoped they would choose the latter, but they quickly opted to go to the police. This confrontation effectively ended any worries about them coming after me or my children. In the meantime, I have found a new apartment and will be moving soon with the help of Bob, who has been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. Despite finding a new place and resolving the immediate threats, I am dealing with a profound sense of depression. The entire situation has been extremely taxing emotionally, and I find myself constantly battling sadness. The emotional support from my friends and family, particularly my father, who has been an incredible source of strength, keeps me going. We took a short trip to his cabin for a ski weekend, which was a welcome distraction for me and the kids. The kids are gradually doing better, adapting to the new realities of our lives. As for my ex-wife, the discovery of her addiction and the lifestyle she had been pulled into has been devastating. It has, however, helped our children to understand her actions better. We've explained her behavior as an illness, which she is struggling to overcome. This framing has made it somewhat easier for them to process the situation. Sadly, the situation took a tragic turn when my ex-wife passed away from an overdose while in rehab. The circumstances suggest that she might have smuggled the drugs in somehow, but exactly how remains unclear. Her death is a devastating blow and underscores the destructive power of addiction. The grief of losing her is complex, compounded by our conflicted relationship and the tumultuous events leading up to her death. It's challenging to process the myriad emotions: sadness for her suffering, relief that the chaos may be over, guilt for feeling relieved, and a profound sorrow for my children's loss. As I continue to navigate this grief, I will hold on to the good memories with my ex-wife, cherish the lessons learned, and strive to provide a stable and loving environment for our children.